It is expected that in 2021-2022, consulting revenue is expected to hit £67.6 billion just in the UK. So if you've ever wondered what the life of a consultant is like, what do they actually do, and whether it's the right career for you, this is the video for you. So stay tuned, because I'm going to be sharing my experiences of working in consulting for the past 7 years, what I've learned throughout that, and whether consulting is the right career choice for you. Okay, so let's start with what exactly management consulting is. Now, I like to think of management consulting under two umbrellas. One umbrella is strategy, and the other umbrella is delivery. So let's start off with strategy first. So strategy is around helping organizations set a vision and guiding principles for their organization. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be for the entire organization. Many of the largest, most recognizable consulting companies, your McKinseys, your Bains, your BCGs, will work with organizations at the highest level, at CEO level, to help define a vision or a strategy for the entire business. But the reality of it is that many other organizations and many other consulting organizations do help companies set strategy at many layers beneath that. You know, companies don't just have one overarching strategy for their entire business and that's it. Every, even organization within that has different strategies itself. So if you sit with an IT will have its own, IT or digital strategy. Marketing will have their own marketing strategy. And even beneath that, there will be other kind of smaller strategies that set a vision or some guiding principles for how that part of the organization will work. And so that's where there are a lot more organizations playing. Those big consultancies are the ones really playing at that whole organizational strategy, but many, many more organizations, consulting organizations, play in that part where they help different parts of the organization set strategy, change strategy, and just help them figure out what strategy is right for them to be pursuing. And so the second umbrella of delivery is more around delivering those projects for the client that will help them achieve that strategy, or supporting them in delivering a project or set of projects that they already have in flight. Now, this is where I've spent most of my time in consulting. And there's kind of sometimes a bad word given about delivery type consulting, that you're essentially just a delivery person, you're not actually advising them. But actually, through my experience, it's actually very much the opposite. When clients outsource delivery of a project, they actually want more than just for you to deliver that project. They want you to, upskill that organization. They want you to bring insight and knowledge about how they can deliver this thing maybe differently or better, or how do they improve their systems, or how they manage change, for example. And so delivery consulting is much more than just doing a project for someone. It's still advisory in its nature, because you're helping the client improve the way they deliver that project and future projects. So how did I actually get into consulting? Before I went to university, I didn't really have any idea what consulting was or what a consultant did. And then I stumbled across this program called House of Lies. Now, many of you guys who've watched it, you'll know how ridiculous it is when it talks about the life of a consultant. But at the time, it was amazing. It was so eye-opening. Marty and his team were traveling around the world, helping their clients with some of their biggest challenges. And I was like, I want a piece of that. Now, looking back at it, obviously having worked in consulting now for the last 7 years, I know how ridiculous everything that happened in that program was. But at the time, it was quite formative in actually me thinking about what career I wanted to go into. And so I decided to do business management. I did it at the University of Warwick. And the reason I decided to choose that degree was that it just left many doors open for me. Like, it wasn't closing any doors for me, any particular career moves or choices I wanted to make in the future. It kind of just left everything open. And I was kind of indecisive when I was leaving school and going into university. So I was like, let me do this degree. It doesn't close any doors for me, and I'll just make a decision on what I want to do in the future. And that was arguably probably one of the smartest decisions I've made. But the thing about consulting, which I've realized having worked in the industry and in the organizations now for the last 7 years, is that you don't really need to do any particular degree to be a good consultant. The core skills of a really good consultant are good problem-solving skills and good analytical skills. And honestly, most degrees will give you that. I've worked with consultants who had, politics degrees, engineering degrees, philosophy degrees, and all of them have been fabulous consultants. And so if you're maybe going to university and thinking about wanting to get into consulting, don't feel like you have to do a business degree. My actual advice would be just do the thing you enjoy, because there is still an avenue always open into consulting. So having worked in consulting for the last 7 years in a number of different organizations, On the whole, it's been a really positive experience. Now, all the time it isn't positive, but there's no job, unfortunately, where it will always be like that. But on the whole, I've had a really rewarding time and a great time working in consulting. But I think one of the things that I've learned most about consulting, which is maybe different to other careers, is that the ebb of work is very much up and down. There are peaks and troughs. There'll be some times where you're working on projects where the hours are long, the deliverables are difficult, the client's difficult, and it will just feel like a real struggle to honestly get anything done because things are just difficult and things just aren't going easily. But then other times you'll be in off projects or in between projects where things are in a trough and where you can actually get a bit more involved in things within your organization or just honestly have a bit of spare time between projects, which sometimes you definitely need. But so if you're someone that maybe likes a more constant kind of flow of work, then maybe consulting isn't right for you. But my experience at least has been, there'll be times where it'll be very busy and very stressful, but there'll be other times where honestly you're just a little bit bored. Consulting also isn't always the glitz and the glamour. Now, maybe working at the largest organizations, your McKinseys and Bains, maybe it is more, first class plane tickets and very nice restaurants. But from my experience at least, yes, it is sometimes that, but a lot of the time it's, working in strange rooms in clients' offices, trying to get things done at all hours, sometimes doing tasks that you don't necessarily want to do just because they need to get done, or just having to please client stakeholders because ultimately they're the ones signing things off, even if you disagree with what they want to do or how they want to do it. It isn't just always glitzy and glamour. And I've definitely had the opportunities where I've been able to go abroad for work, and those have been fantastic experiences, ones I'll definitely remember. But honestly, the majority of the time, it's not that glitzy and glamorous. You're there in front of a PowerPoint presentation, aligning slides. And so you've got to be prepared for that. There will be the high times, the great times, but actually a lot of the time you'll just be stuck doing stuff and getting deliverables done when sometimes you really don't want to. And something which isn't spoken about too much when it comes to consulting is that some of your time, and in certain cases a lot of your time, may not actually be spent doing client-facing work. And actually you still have a lot of internal contribution that you need to do within a consulting organization as well. Now, what I mean by internal contribution is helping out on sales bids or proposals, or helping produce kind of methodologies or ways of working or templates that can be used by other consultants throughout the world or throughout your organization to deliver for other clients. And so that's one thing that isn't talked about too much, and sometimes it's really difficult to balance those two things because you need to ultimately deliver for the clients because they're paying you, and that's where the importance lies. But also at the same time, you need to help your organization sell more work, and also if you found a really good way of doing something or delivering something for a client, you want to be able to share that within the organization. And actually, many consulting organizations will also make you set objectives on both of those two things. And honestly, sometimes the internal facing stuff just doesn't become a priority and it gets put to one side. But actually, some of the best consultants I've seen are the ones that are able to manage the two and actually able to contribute to their clients as well as produce that internal stuff that helps their consulting organization be much better. If you've been considering a career in consulting, or whether this video has got you interested in consulting, here are a couple of reasons about why you might like it. The first is that consulting really does give you fresh challenges on a regular basis. Most of the projects that you work on won't be that long. Yes, I have worked on projects that are 2 years long, but I've also worked on projects that are 2, 3, 4 weeks long. And the benefit of that is it gives you a new opportunity very regularly to essentially start from scratch. Now, for some people, that might be the worst thing possible. It might terrify them. But I found, at least, and some of you guys might find, that actually that is really refreshing. Getting to know a whole bunch of new people, understanding a new landscape, and just figuring out how things work is actually really exciting. And definitely for me, one of the things that I find most exciting about consulting, just reaching new people, finding out how things work in a new environment very quickly, and getting on top of things super quick is one of the biggest challenges, but also one of the biggest rewards of consulting. Another is, by working in consulting, you get to meet and work with some very smart people. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of consultants are full of shit, talk a lot about models and stuff, and mention a lot of jargon. But underneath that, they have some very good skills across the board that make them very versatile, but also make them some of the smartest people that you'll ever work with. And I think the one skill that I think consultants master more than any others is to actually have that ability to tell stories. They have a really uncanny ability to tell a really compelling story, be it to sell something to a client or actually just persuade them to make a decision that maybe they haven't considered before. Telling them about the pros and the cons and just taking them through that journey of helping them understand why whatever the decision is the right one for them. So if you want to learn more about stories or you want to become a better storyteller, consulting is a really great industry to learn that skill in. It also doesn't close any doors. One of the reasons why I chose to do business management was that it didn't close any doors for me post-university. And the great thing about consulting is that it doesn't really close any doors. If you stay as a fairly generalist consultant, if you decide to leave consulting or you decide to move to another consulting organization, your opportunities are pretty much endless. The skill set you get around problem solving, being analytical, is something that you can literally apply to any job. And so if you're still being a little bit indecisive about what career you might want to go down, or you just want to keep your options open, consulting is a great choice to keep those doors open for you. Consulting has been really rewarding for me. On top of all of the opportunities it's given me, it pays very, very well, regardless of where you work in consulting throughout the world. And so if you're at university and you want to get a bit of a head start in your consulting career, you might want to check out my video here on university regrets and things you can do to get yourself ahead and learn a bit more about the industries you want to work in, and also to just avoid some of the mistakes that I made. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learn a bit more about consulting. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.